All right, hello, rockers, rollers, and proggers. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. Absolutely thrilled today. I am chatting with the one and only bassist, of course, of the great prog rock band Pangia. I'm talking to Ron Poulsen. Ron, how are you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
Good, good. Great to see you. Great having you on the show. Really excited to chat with you. And first and foremost, congratulations on the release of the brand new album, Beowulf. Came out last week, right?
Yep, Thursday. Yep.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, which very cool. And it's been a long time since you guys put out an album. So this was really exciting news for me to find out that a new album was out. In fact, I don't know. I must have been sleeping under a rock. I don't even know. I didn't even know you guys were back together. So this was, yeah, thrilling.
Yeah. So about a couple of years ago, I think. When we took our little hiatus, uh, you know, Corey and I had always kind of like kept in touch. And then probably about 5 years ago, Corey and I really started, hey, we should do this, and we should do this. And it turned into a couple of years ago, us meeting in Dallas and the five of us to begin with. And putting just a plan together just to kind of like get back together and rehearse in the hopes of playing live. And we really hadn't talked about an album, you know. And then through the course of rehearsals, everybody was kicking around, I got a song, I got a song, I got a song. Corey's like, I got a notebook full of songs, kind of thing. And it was like, why don't we go out and do another album? And so it happened.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, and what a great album too. 7 songs. And what I love about it is it definitely, you get that, old school Pangea vibe to it, but at the same time, it's very modern. Well, I don't know if I should say it's timeless. It's kind of this timeless, like all of your music. I mean, you guys, that's one thing I really have always liked about your music is it doesn't sound specific to a certain time necessarily, and it kind of it's very expansive, and you capture elements of 70s prog, but then there's this very modern sound, and then there's things that aren't even progressive. There's rock and metal and country and pop and all sorts of cool things that you intertwine, world music that you guys intertwine into what you do in a really sensible, really nice way, I think, if that makes sense. I don't even know if
Well,
what I just said made sense, but
was very well put, and it comes from, you've got on that album five different writers, and with each of kind of our own ideas and styles, plus our producer Robert, who when you send it to him, he kind of puts his tweaks on it,
Hmm.
and so that's kind of how you get that end product.
Oh, okay, nice. Do you guys so you said, when you guys got together, you all, all this music you had all written, a lot of stuff. So I'm sure it took a little while to pare it down to get to the, the 7 songs that ended up on the album. Once you kind of decided what tracks you were going to focus on, do you guys then, it sounded like, everybody has individual songs. Do you start working together and go like, well, hey, what if we did this? What if we tweaked that? What if I do this? Do you guys kind of, it's kind of more organic? Because your music has always felt very organic and very band oriented to me. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but um,
It in the beginning, if you go back to the very beginning, it was more like somebody would come in and say like, here's the song, like Corey wrote a song and that's it, and we pretty much just played it.
okay.
And yeah, and now the change is kind of somebody will come in with a song, like say Steve came in with Masquerade, and he would bring in, the idea, and then the rest of us put our parts in. And the thing now is, even with Corey, would have some very structured things written out, get into the studio, and maybe I go to play it. I don't play it note for note the way he has it, but you listen to it and it goes, okay, we're going to do it like that. So things have changed a little bit in that, somebody will still bring in the idea or of it,
Hmm.
and then the rest of us now have a little bit more say or play in the music to kind of make it our own,
Gotcha.
and add our ideas and stuff to it. So it's more of a group thing probably now than it used to be.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, and I think it really works well. I mean, I mean, it just, yeah, it's one of those albums that, as soon as you put it on, you're just kind of you're entrenched, you're kind of sucked into this world, this cool, you know, this Pangia world of just this amazing sonic journey. You know, I really, really enjoy this album a lot. It's I listened to it twice today, actually. So this morning I was, you know, and I got up early, worked out, had some coffee, and put it on. It's like I should listen to it because I've been listening to it a lot since it came out, but I'm like I should listen
Well,
to it again. And
thank
I
you.
listened to it, and then as soon as it ended, I'm like, well, I want more. I'm going. So I went right back to, and you know, I could have put on another Pangea album, but I'm like, no, I want to listen to that again. Like, I really like it. I mean, you know, from the opening track, Necromancer, I love how that song has this kind of 60s pop vibe a little bit to it. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of, you know, and I mean, it's definitely, you know, a Pangea song, but there's almost this kind of 60s vibe in it. It seems like the album kind of ends the same way a little bit with A Month of Sundays. There's also kind of this 60s kind of pop rock vibe. You know, I thought that was a really cool, kind of comes full circle. I thought that was really interesting.
Very Beatles kind of ending. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool, really cool. Was that intentional, that kind of, you know, circular, you know, as far as you know, kind of starting with kind of that kind of vibe and ending with that kind of vibe?
I don't think it was. I think it's just the way it turned out.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think there's any intent to make it like that. And I think it's just the way that it played out, honestly.
Nice, nice. Yeah, very, I mean, it's such a great album, like track by track. It's just, you know, and with all of your albums, that's the thing I love too, is like there's no filler. There's like you guys are serious musicians. Every song is intentional and it seems very well thought out. Tell me about one of my favorite songs on the album is, and hopefully I'm pronouncing it, is it Wasappe? Is that how you pronounce it?
Wasappe, yeah.
So
It's
I
yeah. So how that happened, it's Andy's song, our drummer. We're in our pre-production room where like our Pro Tools and stuff are. It's me, Corey, and Andy and I we're playing it, and Corey just asked Andy. He's like, "What's the song about?" And then so Andy explains it to him, and Corey thinks for a few minutes, and he kind of turns around and he looks at Andy and he goes, "You're talking about Beowulf." And Andy and I don't know what he's talking about. So, you know, Corey like pulls it up real quick on the computer and he explains to us, you know, this Beowulf, you know, and all that. And then we're like, Andy and I just kind of look at each other and we're like, that's it, man. I mean, that is, yes, that's it. It's an amazing idea. And then Corey's like, what if we have Steve talk it? And, you know, I was like, what? And it just kept getting, you know, this big idea. And basically the Native American that you hear in the end of it is I'm a man, and it's Comanche, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of how our whole writing process kind of goes. You know, you just the different ideas, different people comes together, and that's how we got the song.
nice. Yeah, it's a really powerful song for sure. Yeah, I think, you know, like I mean, I love all the album. I love every song on it. But yeah, I think the standouts for me are like Necromancer and yeah, Wasabi. Uh, um, yeah, those two songs. But again, it's like one of those albums where like I listen to a song like this is my favorite song. The next song comes on, I'm like, nope, that's my favorite song. But that song
I,
has a lot of power to it.
there's a lot of stuff in that song, and I can tell you that I have a daughter in college, and she's played everything for all of her friends. That's one of those songs that the college age kids, we didn't play it last week, and they were very disappointed. So it's on the short to learn list
Uh,
because it's kind of gaining a lot of popularity. So
cool,
it's
cool.
those ones we're going to have to work out.
Yeah. You guys should do a video for it too, I think. That would be
Oh,
cool.
okay.
That's just my idea. Yeah. Yeah, because
Right.
I don't have to pay for it, so like I'll just throw it out there. Nice, very cool. It's cool to and very exciting that you're back. So yeah, let if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about that. I mean, you know, I know you guys were on hiatus for like close to 15 years, right?
More, yeah. So we were all here, like you know, we known each other since high school. I've known Andy, our drummer, since he was in junior high. We met playing soccer. Corey and I did even before that.
Oh wow.
Um, so we started playing. Obviously, we did the earlier albums, and then they, Corey and Andy moved to Houston, and Steve and I stayed here. Had families, kids, all that, your real job gets in the way and all that kind of stuff. And then,
Yeah.
like we were talking about earlier, kind of kept in touch. I kind of kept in touch with Corey over the years, maybe the first, I don't know, 10, 15 years, not as much, but the past 5 years, we started talking to each other a lot more. And I think there just came a point where both of us like, you know what, we got to do it. And so we're all going to meet in Dallas, and we took a weekend and we met in Dallas a couple of years ago. And that just started this whole wave over again. And I'm not sure that any of us thought that it would get to this point. I don't think we knew it would get to this point, that we'd have another album out and stuff like that. We probably hoped it would, but we were just looking to probably relearn the music, because it's not easy when you haven't been playing for 20 years to go back and try to relearn that catalog. It's pretty
Right.
big, and then just play live, because that's really what we're all kind of wanting to do, is play some shows, and like we talked about earlier, it turned into the new album.
Nice. So is there a particular show that kind of where you were like, that you guys were like, we got to do this show, and that's kind of what brought you all together? Or was it just let's figure this out and figure out where we can play?
Oh no, yeah, right. It's the latter of what you said. It was like, let's just start baby steps. We'll pick the songs. Can we play for an hour? Can we play for 2 hours? And then look for a place to play. So and that started off here a couple months ago. We got a gig at an art studio in Beaumont, Texas, and played for about an hour. And then it led up to our gig that we had last weekend when we released Beowulf, where we played at the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame in Muskogee, and we played for a couple hours, and that went over really, really well.
Nice.
So yeah, it's pretty. And then, obviously the hope is from that the momentum just carries off of that, and we keep doing, more and more things.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any like any shows lined up right now? Like, any festivals or anything,
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we had just talked about that the other day between like me, Corey, and Andy. And so the idea is, and what we were trying to do is we were trying to string some shows along with that show last week at the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame, and get some shows here in Tulsa, because it's only about 45 minutes away. And so the idea right now is put together a string of 3 or 4 shows, like from Thursday to Sunday or something, and do a couple little runs like that, maybe in Tulsa, maybe around Houston. There's a big, what they call in Texas, they have these things called like swing dance clubs, and it's the old, like where Willie Nelson got his start and all those kind of guys. They would play these clubs out in the middle of nowhere, and but people would go there because that's where you went, because there was no other place to go, And there's a bunch of these, and we, talked about doing a week or two of just hitting those kind of shows. There's like 7 of those kind of clubs, and then
Oh, wow.
and then once we get that underneath our belt a little bit, and give us some more like playing multiple nights in a row. The idea was to try to look for some of these festivals like you talk about. There's a lot of prog festivals in the United States alone, and they play throughout, summer and stuff. So next year, try to hit these kind of things and go to like the prog stock and things like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, Prog Power, and
Yes.
yeah, and from what I understand, we'll see. I've heard that 2025 is going to be the very last Prog Power ever, so it'd be great if Pangia was on that list for sure.
Wow, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. We'll see. He's threatened to shut it down before, but I know he wants to retire, so we'll see what happens.
I've even seen some other festivals that kind of look, up our alley, because it doesn't even have to be a prog festival. There's a lot of like these indie festivals and stuff where you'll see bands that are, I think, very accessible. One thing that we noticed when we played these shows is they're primarily like older high school, younger college age kids, and they're very receptive to the music. And we kind of feel like it's because they've been forced to, that you have to listen to a certain thing, on the radio, and we're not that, and we all play our own instruments, and we all actually sing, there's nothing taped, and there's nothing. Yeah. And so we started playing, and in both places we got this, oh, okay, this is kind of serious, and so I think we offer we offer something that, people might not be, if you just turn your radio on right now, you're not getting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's the thing I really like about your music too is, you know, I keep saying prog, but I mean, it's really hard to fit you in any sort of a box, and I don't like doing that anyway. As my wife always says, like, I don't play. She says I don't play the genre game, and that's what I like about your music is, yeah, it doesn't, for lack of a better term, I think, it fits, the early '90s when you guys started. That was the kind of the whole neo prog movement, that was happening, like with your band and Spock's Beard and the Flower Kings and bands like that, but nobody sounded the same, and it was very, like, kind of college radio friendly, rock. And that's what I've really liked about your music is that, yeah, it's you can't really pigeonhole it into anything. Like, you guys are doing lots of different things, there's lots of different influence, but you've made it into your own thing, and yeah, it's just cool rock music. I mean, that's really what it is. It's just cool rock music. So
thank you. I can say that probably in the beginning, what we were trying to go for was the whole Asia thing. So
mm,
people can draw that correlation there a little bit.
yeah, I can see that.
And now it is kind of a little more mainstream, but it does have the prog in it, like Asia,
Yeah,
accessible, but still has the weird twists and turns. And that's kind of that they're our biggest influence. And at the time when we started, Corey was our main songwriter, and Asia was his biggest influence. So we're going to draw that correlation there.
cool,
No
cool.
matter what.
Yeah, there's definitely those cool harmonies and, vocal harmonies and those cool melodies as well. Yeah, I can see that with the Asia kind of vibe. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm a huge Asia fan, so that, yeah, that must be what. And that's funny. I don't know why I did not make that connection before. I really didn't. But now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like, that makes total sense. Yeah, that's
Now,
cool.
watching the Asia video before I got online with you. So I mean,
Oh wow.
yeah, we all dabble in it pretty much every day.
Nice. That's cool. I mean, I can even see the similarities in vocals with John Wetton a little bit. Um, to some degree. Just that harmon that, very, you know, those types of harmonies and the melodies that you guys write too. Like, I can totally see that. That's really interesting. Yeah, that actually, that's great. That leads into my that's a great dovetail into my next question. I was going to ask you about your influences as a bass player, and really as a musician in general. So, obviously Asia, but yeah, like, as far as a bass player, like, who have been your big influences?
Well, you're gonna love this. So I got to tell you, this is a little side note as why I started playing music, and this might shock you a little bit. So when I was younger, um, my buddy down the street had Kiss Destroyer on vinyl, and
Nice.
his mom wouldn't let him keep it because of the album artwork and the fire and everything. He gave me the album, and I started once I put it on, Detroit Rock City came on. I heard the car and the crash and everything. And sorry, I thought I was going to be Ace Frehley. So I saved up a couple $100 and I bought a fake, Hondo Les Paul and copy, and I was going to be Ace Frehley. And so,
Nice.
and then come around high school when Corey and I met, my uncle, who's a bass player, he gave me his bass, and because Corey needed a bass player in Arctica, which would become Pangia, and that's kind of how I got started. But in the beginning, if you'd asked me who my influences were way, way, way back then, I'd have told you my three biggest influences were obviously Gene Simmons from Kiss, and Billy Sheehan,
Oh yeah.
and then Steve Harris from Iron Maiden. To me, those were the guys that I listened to all the time.
That's
And nowadays, because my influence have changed a lot, I listen to a lot of the Pineapple Thief and Porcupine Tree, like a
oh,
lot.
great
And
band.
so the bass, most recently, Nate Navarro played with them, and Nick Beggs played, and the guy in the Pineapple Thief, his name is John Sykes. So I pay a lot of attention to those guys, um, more than I did. Uh, they've probably become three of my bigger influences now.
Nice.
I
Oh, I
listen to a
love.
lot
I,
of, you know,
sorry.
like Yannick Griswalda and, you know, teachers and stuff like that. I got pretty lucky. I met a guy. This is really weird, but I don't know if you know who the country artist Luke Combs is, but his bass player, Matt Maxwell, is actually from Oklahoma. And I
Okay.
got to meet him a couple years ago, and I've had a couple lessons with him. So I've kind of tried to, you know, branch out a little bit and not, and to say that he's a country bass player is, you know, he's the furthest, because you sit down and play with him and he's like, he's amazing. And you're like, wow, you know, but even my uncle Rich is a big influence on me. The way I always talk about him is he's the greatest bass player you've never heard of, because he's amazing,
Hmm.
but he just plays in like cover bands in Tallahassee, Florida, because that's what he likes to do. So I mean, you know, to each their own, you know. But yeah, I don't try to like just pigeon myself whole, in, you know, myself with like one, like you said, genre or, you know, style or anything. I try to listen to a lot and take a lot from a lot of different people.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, you've mentioned some really phenomenal musicians that I'm a big fan of as well. And I'm not a musician, but yeah, like Nick Beggs, I think is a super underrated bass player. What an incredible musician that guy is, and
The
really
stuff he does
funny.
with Steven Wilson is just, it's crazy good. And it's, yeah, I mean, and he plays the Chapman stick and stuff. And it's just, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I love his fretless bass style. Like that's, I mean, you don't get a lot of fretless bass, like he and he's one, and Tony Franklin. I love that sound of a fretless bass. Like that's just it's cool. Yeah, Nick Beggs is amazing. Yeah, really. Yeah, I saw
I
him
was,
live once with Stephen Wilson, and it was pretty amazing.
I was just talking about Tony Franklin today at lunch with my sister. We were talking about the Firm, because the Firm song came on the radio,
Oh,
and we were
cool.
talking about Murder and the Firm, and yeah, we were talking about him. He's amazing too. I love him.
Yeah, yeah, The Firm, and yeah, Blue Murder, and yeah, I'm a big Tony Franklin fan. He's a phenomenal musician. Well, that's really cool. I love that. So you mentioned your uncle being a bass player. Is your family musical? Did you come from a musical family?
My dad actually is from New Jersey, and the reason I wound up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is because he came to the University of Tulsa to play trumpet
Oh,
in the
cool.
band. And that's how I got here. And that was actually my first instrument, was trumpet. So, and then I was forced to take piano lessons, guitar lessons, bass lessons, trumpet lessons. I've taken trombone lessons. So, but the only thing I really stuck with was bass.
You just kind of gravitated towards that instrument.
Yeah, I mean, in junior high and high school, I played trumpet, but bass was always the. Yeah, my uncle had an original like 1980s G&L. My grandparents were coming out here one year. He got a new bass, and they brought me his old bass, and that was it. Once I had it, I'd never look back.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool. That's very cool. I love that. That is great. Um, yeah, so you mentioned you played soccer with Corey back
Yep.
way back. Yeah, how did the band kind of form? How did it become a band?
Wow. I think Corey started with. I remember the original name of the band before it was Before it was Pangia, it was Arctica. But before that, it was something else, and it just escapes me at the moment. But you know, a little bit different lineups and all that. And Corey and I had a computer class in high school together when we were, I think, seniors. And he talked about music, and that, like I said, that's when I got the bass. And he's like, "Well, I need a bass player," and so okay. So went over to their house, Andy's bedroom kit, and I think the story with Andy goes is that a drummer didn't show up or couldn't play for a talent show or didn't show up, and Andy sat down and played, and from then on he was the drummer.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah, and then I know that Corey met Steve, Steve and Daryl in college, in junior college here in Tulsa,
Okay.
and so that's how the five of us got together.
Nice.
And
Nice.
you know, iterations of that throughout the years with the five of us.
Yeah, that's one thing I have a lot of respect for the band too, is the fact, and no shade on any other band, but if you look at, it's crazy to look at kind of family trees of bands now, and they're gigantic. And what's cool is your band has always been I mean, you guys, I mean, it's the same band now that it was in 1991. I mean, barring, I
So,
guess, Keith, right? But he's still kind of part of it to
well,
some
Keith,
degree, right?
well, they're still taking from stuff that he's written, probably. You know,
Okay.
he still gets writing credits and stuff. Well, I think to go back a little bit on what you had said is that we uh, when Corey and I always talk, Corey, we got to get when we kind of had our little hiatus, and Steve and I got married and had kids and stuff like that. They tried to keep it going with other people, and I don't want to put words in Corey's mouth, but I think what the way was, they came home from a gig, he pulled over, he said, I can't do this anymore. He
Mm.
goes, I'm calling Ron and I'm calling Steve, and he fired the other two guys. And he called and he said, look, if we're going to do this, it's going to be the five guys, and or we're not going to do it. And I think if either one of us would have said no, I don't think it would have got to this point.
Mm.
Because I don't think Corey felt like it would have. And he's right, it wouldn't have worked. And one of the things that's funny, somebody said the other day, why are you guys doing this? And we're doing it because the very simple answer is it's what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, it's, I don't know how else to say it. If somebody's a police officer or a fireman, and you feel that's your calling and that's what you should do, then that's going to be your answer, because that I know that deep down in my heart, that's what I should be doing. And for us, it's the same thing, on a couple levels. We all know that this is what we should be doing. And we also know that these are the guys that we should be doing it with, not other people, because we've tried it with other people and it doesn't work. And it only happens when, we get up there, and the six of us now, because Scott's in the band, we get up there and it just works, and it's right and it feels right, and it's just the way it should be, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I very much agree with that. Yeah. I mean, especially, yeah, it just feels like you guys really feed off of each other really well. I mean, just, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's meant to be.
It
Yeah,
is.
you
Yeah.
guys are supposed to be doing. That's cool. That's cool. With the you mentioned earlier in the interview, the writing, and you mentioned, that they're, all have lots of songs. I mean, notebooks full of songs. Do you, and I'm probably getting way ahead of myself here, but yeah, are you guys planning on a follow-up album at this point? I mean, if you have that much material?
I'm not sure if I can talk about this. I'm not sure if I've been cleared to talk about this or not.
Yeah, I don't
But
want to
yeah,
get you in trouble.
no, I don't think I'm going to get in trouble. But we have kicked around the idea of going back out to Roberts in a summer or two, I believe, and doing it again, and
Cool.
recording more. Um, and yeah, and to say that, is like, I'll give you an example. If obviously our music and the song in my dreams, and
Mm.
I write a little piece on a keyboard one night and I play it for Corey, and he's like, and he goes over and he pulls out like stacks of notebooks, and that's in my dreams, and he's got all these lyrics written. And you
Oh,
come
wow.
back the next day, and it's literally a song. Or like we're driving in the car, and we were coming back somewhere, and it's me, Andy, Corey, and Steve. We're driving. Somebody says something, hey, we ought to do this. Corey gets real quiet. He doesn't talk for like 3 or 4 minutes. And he turns around and he's like, this is what we're going to do. And whatever it was, the little idea you said, or the little thing you just said in passing, like you think, oh, you think nothing of it, right? He'll turn it into a song in about 3 minutes. And so, those kind of things happen a lot with us, so it's just kind of like, the joke is, be careful about what you say in front of Corey, because tomorrow, it's going to be, that's what you're going to be doing, so
Yeah, that'll be a song.
it'll be a song tomorrow. Yeah. But yeah, we do that a lot. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. It's cool. I love the, I wish I had that mindset. Like I said, I'm not a musician. I wish, but I'm fascinated by the writing process of musicians. I think it's really cool. And especially like somebody like that is just constantly thinking of songs and creating songs. And I mean, is that true for you too? Are you, like walking down the street and creating riffs in your head and, you know,
And I have, and what I've taken to recently, which I didn't do in the past, is I will set my phone up and I'll play something on my bass and I'll record it. And then that way, like when I'm with Corey, I'll play it for him. And pretty much he's got like a musical photographic, memory, and he can just be like, oh, okay. And be by me doing that, I know that just playing that little riff, probably on the next album, that little riff's going to be on there somewhere because he's going to put it in a song, or something. He's going to make it work somewhere, or write something around that, or he's already got something that he can put it into, So, yeah, more so. I'll tell you a little bit about that too. In the very very beginning, when we first met Robert, we had a little 4-song EP that we had done when we were still Arctica before we changed our name to Pangia. Okay. And we that got to Robert and he contacted us and he wanted to work with us. So he's like, you guys fly out here. This was before the rite of passage. He goes, you guys fly out. We'll deconstruct like 3 or 4 of your songs and build them back up over 3 or 4 days. And then I think his words were like, if you guys don't want to work with me, that's fine. He goes, at least you got a pretty good demo tape out of it. You can use the demo tape. We're like, okay. So we were, Robert was in the band 3 with Keith Emerson and Carl Palmer. So
that's right.
Yeah. So we were all prog nerds anyway. We were all gigantic fans before he even reached out to us. And we're like, like giggly little schoolgirls. Hey, Robert Barry, you call it, kind of, it's like, oh my God. We're going out to California to record with Robert Barry, and nobody knows what we're talking about. Only us 4 knew what we were talking about, right? So, so we get out there and we, Robert takes the songs and, I don't like this key. It's not pushing the voice hard enough, or this part, you guys play this part for 20 minutes. No, play it for 3, and he would, he helped us. He taught us how to write, because, we had songs, but he taught us how to make it what you hear on the album, basically. Cool. And so for probably like the first album was the hardest. The second album, his input got a little less. Third album probably got a little less. Where this album, his input really wasn't as much. He might have changed a couple little things, but not like he did, being with him for a week to 2 weeks is like going to a university and studying music for 4 years, because that man's got more musical knowledge. He's forgot more than I'll ever learn. Let's put it that way, So yeah, he taught us over those years how to write the songs. And so what we did before we did Beowulf, so I would fly down to Houston, and Andy had Pro Tools set up in we had a studio room in his house that was just, for recording purposes. And it would just be me, Corey, and Andy. So we're doing all the pre-production to send to Robert, lay down all the bass. And then when weekend, Steve would go in, do the vocals. Daryl would go in, do the guitars, until we had all the songs. And then we sent it to Robert for him to, okay, yeah, do this, do that. So we had that back and forth this time before we even went out there, all that pre-production stuff like we didn't have before. So like you said earlier, technology and having Pro Tools and everything really helped out with this album, because we had it all, where we could have all the fixings done before we went out there, kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Oh, that's really cool.
It was really cool.
That's sorry, what?
He's like 10. Robert's got like 10 of everything, right? So like, if you need, it's weird. I used 4 basses on this album. I used a 4-string Steinberger, a 5-string Steinberger, a 4-string Fender jazz bass, and I used a 5-string Washburn. And not to name drop, but I mean, he plays with Sammy Hagar, Greg Kinn. I mean, so these are the instruments that he uses when he plays with those people, right? And so, the very first time I ever went out there and he handed me a Steinberger, and I was like, oh, and I was like, he goes, yeah, he goes, I use that one when I play with Sammy Hagar. And we're like, huh? And it's just the amount of, people that he's touched, that he's been, right. It's just so overwhelming, right? And so, I picked up the jazz bass and I started playing it, and he goes, yeah, that's the one I use when I play with Greg Kinn. And I'm like, we're like, huh? Dang, yeah, it's just like, wow, So he's got like a little room in there that's got all his instruments in it. And I see a Rickenbacker hanging up in there. And I'm like, oh man, I'd love to use this Rickenbacker. So I go in there and I'm about to grab it, and I see it's got a name written on it in Sharpie, and I pull it back. It's Chris Squire from Yes, and I put the bass back, and I'm gonna be touching that. I walked out of the control room. I'm like, guys, it says Chris Squire on it, and it's like, oh, it's like Chris actually signed it. I mean,
That
so
is cool.
it's like being at his place all the time. But the most humble guy you would ever meet in your life, right? He would never name drop or any, and he just, it's not, he's just so, he's kind of like us. And he really is like another member of the band. You know what I
I was
mean?
gonna
And like,
say it's almost like he's another member, like with his input and his production.
it is. And it's like another brother. And, he'll be like, hand me that real quick. And I'll hand him this. He goes, do that. And oh, okay. And so I'll run out there and say, Andy, give me the sticks real quick. I'll sit down and go, play it like that. Okay. And then he just looks for little certain things where he can, put it in there. And man, when you listen back to it, that very first time when we went out to do the rite of passage, I think we were doing Winds Behind the Door, and he popped off a cassette tape and he goes, put this in your car on the way home back to the hotel, listen to it. So I remember the four of us were in there, put it in there, play it. We're all like looking around at each other. None of us want to say anything, or anything, but we're like, oh my God. Yeah, yes. Like,
We've done it. We're there. We've done it.
yes, yeah. And to, even you said that we're there to talk to that just a little bit, mentioning like you said in the past, we felt like we got to a certain level. We had a certain level of success, even internationally. We were shipping CDs overseas and selling them.
Yeah.
And we, and then things happened. Like I said, the guys moved, we had families, and things happened. But we feel like right now, I mean, and to you, a big thanks to people like you. We feel like we are at least where we were then, and we think that we are in a position to even, be a lot higher, go a lot higher, a lot further, and become make it even bigger than it was before.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of buzz around the Beowulf album. Like I've seen out there, there's chatter, there's, people are talking about it. And it's like you said, I mean, it's only been out a week. So that's good. I think, hopefully we'll keep that momentum going. And I'm excited to, hopefully you guys will, I know you all have busy lives, but yeah, if you guys can get some shows going and even a tour, like even if it's like a mini tour of the West or something, that would be great. That'd be grand. I would love that to see you
There's
guys live.
there's a prog festival up in Seattle, isn't there?
I believe
I think
so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
that it's not like right next door to you, but it's up that way.
Yeah, that's like a 12-hour drive. It's not terrible. I've done it before, so I have friends there. So yeah, I do
Okay.
it. And I definitely do it to see you guys play for sure. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be really cool. Yeah, like I said, I'm really digging this album. I think it's yeah, and it's cool because it's definitely, I said this before, it's definitely Pangia, but it's new and fresh and exciting. Not that your old music wasn't, but it's a little different than what you did before to some degree. It's been a long time, but yeah, it's like you guys came out of the, came out of the gate just swinging like
Well, thank
yeah,
you very much.
yeah, very, very cool stuff. Um, well, Ron, this has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you so very much. For those of you watching, if you look in the description below, I've got links to the Pangia website as well as their Facebook page, and check them out if you're not familiar with them, and especially if you're a rock fan, a prog fan. There's some great music. You're gonna love it. And the cool thing is, yeah, I think if you click on the music tab on the web page, there's YouTube videos. You can listen to music from the past, and then definitely pick up the brand new album Beowulf from HGM Records. Came out last week. It is, if you just are a fan of excellent rock music, then this is your album. Go get it right now. So Ron, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.